Okay, hello. This is what would you do response week number one. And I decided to go with air quality in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Unfortunately, as a group, we decided we didn't realize that we had to answer the same one until it was a bit too late. So I was only able to get in contact with Alexander. So we both decided on that one. But now I do have most of the group's contact. So next week we will be unified in that response. Okay. So what would you do week number one? I chose air quality in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, right? And so in this scenario, I'm acting as the assistant city planner in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I'm serving on a committee that's looking at regional air pollution issues. And one of the biggest concerns raised by representatives from the Great Smoky Mountains National Park is acid deposition, which is essentially acid rain, or it is acid rain, which has really been damaging the plants and ecosystem, aquatic life in the park because it's water, it's rain, right? It gets everywhere, it seeps everywhere. And so the Smoky Mountains are really important in that region, both obviously environmentally, but also economically. I mean, the park supports over 100,000 species, as cited in the actual prompt, and it makes it one of the most biologically diverse areas in the country. It also provides key ecosystem services like flood prevention, and also brings in about it brings in about 800 million a year through tourism and local service jobs. And so the problem is that precipitation in the park has become much more acidic. They found the average pH now is around 4.6, and they're comparing that to the normal average, which is 5.3. And some readings have actually been as low as 2.0, which is again cited in the actual "what would you do" scenario. And this is concerning because the lower the pH, the higher the acidity. So that's why we're getting acid rain. And according to the scenario, the main sources of this pollution are emissions from coal burning power plants and also the automobiles driving through the area. $800 million a year, that's a lot of tourism, that's a lot of cars. It's a vast, major area, so you need cars to drive through it. The first decision the committee is tasked with is we had to decide whether to focus on acid deposition or ground level ozone, and I voted to prioritize acid deposition. I made this choice using systems thinking, which is something we talked about in earlier in this module. And systems thinking means looking at environmental problems as interconnected systems, not necessarily isolated like individual issues. And this is described in the systems thinking video. Oh, I'm sorry, article on the Center for Ecoliteracy website that was required reading. So after that one, we had to decide whether to focus on remediating the damaged areas that had already been damaged, or reducing the air pollutants causing the problem. I supported reducing air pollutants because this choice lines up directly, in my opinion, or with the definition of sustainability that we learned in chapter one. And this describes sustainability as managing resources in ways that don't degrade Earth's ability to provide those resources in the future. And I think the important part to focus on in that is providing them in the future. So this is a long-term goal that we need to fix. And remediation can help repair damage, but it doesn't really stop the pollution from continuing. You're just sweeping it under the rug, just going to get dirty later. So reducing emissions, on the other hand, addresses the root cause of the acid deposition, I believe. And from an environmental economics perspective, this issue is a classic example of negative externality. And the environmental economics video we had to watch, pollution costs are often, it's described as pollution costs aren't really included in market prices, which means the environment and the public end up paying for them rather than the companies that produce it and benefit from it. So the situation also reflects tragedy of the commons, which we learned about in the tragedy of the commons video. Yeah. Air and national parks are a shared resource. And when individuals or industries prioritize short-term benefits, those shared resources are slowly just degraded, beat down for everybody. My decision also follows the triple bottom line approach, which focuses on balancing planet, people, and profit. Yeah, and reducing, which reduces the air pollution and protects ecosystems. It also improves public health, and also helps preserve the long-term tourism revenue the region depends on. So pollution, health, and economics. And then the decision, I think, reflects on an ethical responsibility. And chapter two discusses that public institutions have a duty to protect shared resources and really should aim for the greatest good of the for the greatest number, right? So for the greater good for everybody, which is the core idea behind utilitarian ethics, right? And basically, reducing air pollutants, I believe, is probably the most sustainable and ethical option because it prevents ongoing damage instead of repeatedly fixing the same problem. And this decision reflects systems thinking, sustainability, environmental economics, and the triple bottom line, all of which emphasize protecting ecosystems and the well-being of the humans over a much longer term. So those are the reasons I went with those decisions. Anyways, I look forward to watching all of your videos and maybe getting in a little debate or something. Should be a good time. Thanks.